evening, our final speaker of the year. Cheers. This man is a fantastic man. He's a senior, and he's a student speaker, obviously. But just a couple of fun facts about this guy. He always puts his left sock on first. True fact. That's what he told me. His roommates say that he's really good at impressions, so maybe he'll do some tonight. I don't know. That would be great. And he really wishes, his deepest wish is that he could be half as well dressed as Nick Vandy. Which, I mean, honestly, I think that's all of us. So give me a hand and let's welcome Chris Cavadini to the stage.
These are my friends in the front. How's everyone doing? Happy last day of class. That's exciting. We also are moving into finals week, so it's kind of a weird time of the semester. So yeah, my name is Chris. I'm a senior. I'm a microbiology student. I'm also engaged. I'm getting married in like a month. So I don't have a ton of time, so let's pray and we'll get going. Lord, I thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. God, I submit all of the notes, all of the preparation, everything that's led up to this, I submit that to you, and just ask that your name will be made great right now. Pray this all in your name, Jesus. Amen. Alright, so I am really excited to be with you guys. It's kind of a weird, nostalgic point, considering it is, for a lot of us, I'm going to be a fifth year student, so I'm not actually but for a lot of people, it's their last crew and the spaces that I won't see here anymore. And if I think back to my freshman year, I was sitting in this exact same room when it was Christmas crew, and we had a senior speaker, Josh Varghese, speak, and I remember sitting there watching him, thinking to myself, I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that gets to talk. And now I get to do that, and it's super cool, a little bit scary, but I'm glad to be with you guys. It's an honor. So I'm going to talk to you guys tonight, not about forgiveness. The email was actually wrong. I forgot to update them, and I changed the topic. Or, it wasn't forgiveness, faithfulness. So I'm going to talk to you guys about something I've kind of been learning and wrestling with for a while, and that's this idea of obedience. Specifically, we're going to ask this question: to whom do you cast your obedience? That question is going to govern everything that we talk about, and you kind of an umbrella question over the text that we're going to look at. That's, to whom do you cast your obedience? But we're going to be looking at Romans 6, 15 through 23. So, to read it, verse 15 starts, "What then, are we to sin because we are not under law, but under grace? By no means. Do you not know that if you present yourselves to anyone as obedient slaves, you are slaves of the one whom you obey, either of sin which leads to death, or of obedience which leads to righteousness? But thanks be to God, that you who were once slaves of sin have become obedient from the heart to the standard of teaching to which you were committed, and having been set free from sin, have become slaves of righteousness." I'm speaking in human terms because of natural limitations. Basically, Paul's saying you guys are a little bit slower, so I'm going to give you an analogy. "Just as you once presented your members as slaves to impurity and to lawlessness, leading to more lawlessness, so now present your members as slaves to righteousness, leading to sanctification." Next slide. Verse 20 says, "For when you were slaves of sin, you were free in regard to righteousness. But what fruit were you getting at that time from the things of which you are now ashamed? The end of those things is death. But now that you have been set free from sin and have become slaves of God, the fruit you get leads to sanctification and its end, eternal life. For the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus our Lord." So that's a pretty big text, but we're going to break that down into 3 different points, kind of work through it. And it starts out with, I think Paul's just trying to make this point that, as he asks this question, to whom do you cast this obedience? He's trying to make this point that obedience is not optional. That's obedience is not optional. Essentially, he's trying to say that you're going to cast your obedience to something. Inevitably, you're going to cast your obedience to something, whether it be to sin or to God. And so, if we look at verse 15 through 16, We see in verse 16, do you not know if you present yourselves to anyone as obedient slaves, you're slaves to the one whom you obey, either of sin which leads to death or obedience which leads to righteousness? So again, he's basically saying obedience is not optional. You're going to do one or the other. And this isn't like a popular opinion. Most people don't like binary systems. They like to be neutral or kind of be like in between. That's why we like the interested tab when on like a Facebook event, so they're saying going or not going, so we can back up that way. And I was trying to think like, for people that are like, no, I'm not going to cast my obedience to anything. I'm going to be neutral, middle ground. I was trying to think, I was sitting there the other day and was like, what's an analogy that would be pretty effective? Well, if we're being honest here, there's like 200 people in here. Everybody poops. It's just a fact of life. And go to the next slide for more context. Next slide again. And in the world of wiping, everyone is either a crumpler or a folder. There's no like middle ground. You're not going to be both. It wouldn't make sense to be both. You're going to be one or the other. It's a binary system. It's kind of a weird analogy, but it's what I came up with. I like that. Another fact. I don't mean to pit anyone against each other, who's the folders, who's the crumblers, or anything like that. But in the same way, Paul's making this point here, where he's saying, you're going to be one or the other. You're either going to cast your obedience the same. You're going to cast your obedience to God. Obedience is not optional. It's not like you decide if you're going to be. You're going to be obedient to something. But you might be asking the question, is this actually true? Is this something that actually shows itself in real everyday life? Like, yeah, you made an analogy, but that doesn't mean that it actually happens. Well, the short answer, I would say, is yes. Last Friday for, it was kind of like an end of the year event, I guess, for crew. We had this thing that Ben Krakowski and Tyler McRoberts put on called Today God is First. And that was this really cool event. It kind of just challenged all of us in the crew to go out, put aside the stress and all the work that we had to do, set that aside and devote a few hours to God, of just talking to people, engaging in conversation, and asking them about what their spiritual beliefs are, asking them what their background is, asking them how that shaped their life, and then offering to share, if they would want to hear us share our opinions with them too. And so I was doing that with Everett Schroeder, my discipler, and Tyler Stump, and we talked to two different guys. They were both seniors. They weren't sitting by each other, they were on opposite sides of the room, they didn't know each other. And in both conversations, we got towards the end and asked them this question, and if you've gone sharing with crew, you know, if you would rate on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being no, not at all, not interested, get out of here, 10 being absolutely, I want that, what would your desire be to know God in a personal way? And so we asked them that question, and it was interesting. I didn't expect it, but they both had like the exact same answer. They both said something to the effect of, well, if I'm being honest, I would probably be a 10. If he's real, I would be a 10, absolutely. Why wouldn't I want to know God? But if he's not real, then I guess I'd be a 0. And yeah, I'm not going to read into like the deep beliefs that hold in their heart just because of a number they gave. But I think that is kind of proof to Paul's point in that even these people that wouldn't self-identify as Christians, they know that you're going to be all or nothing. You're going to give everything to God. You're going to be totally for Him, or you're going to be nothing at all. It wouldn't really make sense to be a middle ground. So Paul's begging this question, to whom do you cast your obedience? But what else is he trying to communicate? So I think as we move through this text, the next thing he's trying to show us, and it'll be fairly obvious, is where sin hands out wages, God hands out free gifts. We're going to look at verses 20 through 23 next. So I left the other stuff up there for context. But verse 20 says, "For when you were slaves of sin, you were free in regard to righteousness. But what fruit were you getting at that time from the things of which you are now ashamed? For the end of those things is death. But now that you have been set free from sin and become slaves of God, the fruit you get leads to sanctification and its end, eternal life. For the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus our Lord." So, in this case, to whom does Paul say that they can cast their obedience? He's basically setting up this situation where the Roman church that he's writing to, he's saying they can cast their obedience either to slave master sin or slave master God. There's two options. And we see in verse 23, for the wages of sin is death, the free gift of God is eternal life, Christ Jesus our Lord. We see that he's saying, where sin hands out wages, God hands out free gifts. So, we know so far, obedience is not optional. We also know where sin hands out wages, God hands out free gifts. And we're seeing Paul set up the situation where you're going to cast your obedience to something. It's either going to be slave master sin or slave master God. But I recognize not everyone might be kind of jogging with that. There might be some people who are like, okay, Mr. Senior Guy, you're telling me that I'm a slave to something? I'm living free. I don't live with my parents anymore. I'm a college student. I get to make my own decisions. I can do what I want. And I'm enjoying life. That might be true on the outset, but I would challenge you to look deeper. I would challenge you to think about how often it is that you make decisions based upon your own impulses. How often is it that you make decisions to appease the desires that you have? Whether it's the desire for closeness and intimacy that leads you to go out with people a few times a week because you want that camaraderie, or the desire for approval from other people. And so like what Megan talked about last week, we just work and work and work for this magical idea of a GPA and for success. Or are you working for your pride so that even beyond approval you get the praise of the people around you? If you're feeling like you are actually living as just a product of your impulses, a product of your desires, I would strongly push back and say that you're living anything but free. That you are enslaved to those desires that you're appealing to. But then I also recognize, besides that, this text might be kind of uncomfortable because Paul's using sort of awkward language. Is anyone else fairly uncomfortable with seeing me read about slaves? I'm kind of uncomfortable because I know you guys probably are because I'm reading it. It's not popular to say that for everyone. But Paul's not just trying to say that because he thinks being politically incorrect is cool. He's saying it because of a point. I know there's a point because Paul, this apostle who's written letters to other churches too, he makes analogies sometimes where he uses other terms. He'll use terms like bondservant, or just servant, or something milder than slave. And the reason he's saying this, the reason he's saying you're slaves to sin or slaves to God, is because he's trying to paint a picture for the Roman church. He's essentially trying to say, okay, you're going to be a slave to something. Your obedience is not optional. When you cast your obedience to that something, you cast it with such strength, such vigor, that it essentially is like you're saying, I'm going to be a slave to that. You're essentially saying, I'm going to cast my obedience so wholeheartedly that I will enslave myself to that thing. And so we see that there's these two slave master sin and slave master God. We see that sin hands out wages. And what does verse 23 tell us? That the wages of sin is death. So what you earn, the wage, is death. Death, that we know this. Everyone, and this is obvious, death is not a good wage. Nobody wants to work for death dollars per hour. But on the other hand, in sharp contrast to that, God hands out free gifts. God is the other slave master who doesn't hand out anything that you even can earn. He hands out the free gift of eternal life. It inherently can't be worked for because it's free. But how do people misunderstand this? Well, oftentimes I think we just want to add to the gift. We look at that gift and say, okay, that's really cool. Thank you, Jesus. But I was really hoping that my friends thought I was the coolest. Or like, I was really hoping that I was going to get a 70K plus job out of college or something like that. We want something in addition to the gift. Or sometimes we misunderstand this in assuming that the gift must be worked for. And I think there's no better place for that to be relevant than here at UW-Madison. We've all worked super hard to be students here, or to get here as students. And if you didn't work hard and you were just a genius and you got here, then you work hard and you got here. So we get this free gift and we're like, okay, but how can I stamp my name on it? Like, I want to do something. I want to be able to have some kind of ownership on this. And So we want to work and work and work and work and work and try to earn that gift back. But the remedy to this, the truth that replaces this, is that the gift is free because Christ gave it freely. This gift can't be earned, as we said before. If we look at verse 22, verse 22 says, "But now that you have been set free from sin and have become slaves of God," the free gift leads to sanctification, and so on and so forth. Verse 22 says, "But now that you have been set free." The passive structure of the verbs, to go into a little grammar lesson, is important. It's not an active verb in the sense that it doesn't say, "But now that you set yourself free." It says, "Now that you have been set free," meaning God did the work. It's His gift. So we know we have a situation set up where we're freed from sin. We're freed to be obedient to a perfect God. And as Paul would reason, we're free to throw our obedience so wholeheartedly at this God that it can only best be described as a willing slave. But sometimes this situation can be a little bit twisted too. So the summer after my freshman year, I went to Jersey Shore on a summer mission, back when it was called Summer Project. So this was 2014, so we're ways back. And I was super pumped to go. A few people that are still students, yeah, there's pictures. A few people that are still students here were there with me. And there's going to be 45 other college students there. I was excited to be around them. I knew that I was going to be able to talk about Jesus with all these eclectic people on Jersey Shore, as you probably are aware. And I knew that it was going to be a challenging trip, that I was going to have hopefully have a lot of maturity come from that. I was going to learn a lot from some of the older people that were there. But the problem with that was I was more excited about the intellectual growth. I wanted the intellectual growth more than I wanted much else. And so what that led to was me pursuing this idea of like a wise persona. Basically, I tried to sound like as intellectual and insightful as I could with every interaction. I wanted to be the guy that people would look at and like, wow, that Chris kid, he's so insightful. He just always has something to say when I hear it. Like, what did that lead to? Similar to what Paul's talking about in this text here, it led to dryness, it led to weariness, it led to frustration, and me being just a jerk with people often. It led to things that brought me shame. I basically let my desires to be wise in front of my friends rule my life. I said that this free gift of eternal life that God gives was not enough. I tried to add to it so that it would satisfy me. But the beauty of that is that the gospel addresses us right in that place. The gospel addresses us right there because Christ picks us up when we look at Him as an enemy. Jesus freely offers us freedom from our sin and freedom to the gift of eternal life with God when we consider God as an enemy. And we know this if we look at Romans 5, 6 to 10. So it says, "For while we were still weak, at the right time, Christ died for the ungodly. For one would scarcely die for a righteous person, though perhaps for a good person one would dare even to die. But God shows His love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Since, therefore, we have now been justified by His blood, much more shall we be saved by Him from the wrath of God. For if, while we were enemies, we were reconciled to God by the death of His Son, much more, now that we are reconciled, shall we be saved by His life. For if, while we were enemies." Basically, that's saying, while we would throw our obedience at anything else besides Jesus, while we would look at the world around us and are like, you know what, as many friends as I can get, throw my obedience at that. As many, the best grades that I can get, throw my obedience at that. Whatever it is, we would throw obedience at anything and say that that is more satisfying, that is more good, that is more perfect. And that will be more fulfilling to me than throwing my obedience at God. We looked at Him as an enemy. But the gospel is the free gift that Christ gives as a result of the freedom that Christ initiates. So how are we supposed to respond to this? More importantly, if we're not supposed to work to earn this back, if we're not supposed to work to earn back the free gift of eternal life, how are we supposed to respond in, basically, what are we supposed to do? Well, I think a story can kind of help us think about this. So, behind me, this dude, his name is Brennan Manning. He's an author, fairly well-known author. He wrote this book called The Ragamuffin Gospel, and a lot of people know it. It was in his prime a few decades ago when it first came out. But he was born as Richard Manning. And Richard Manning was a Marine, and he fought in the Korean War. And around 1952, in January, he and one of his best friends, Ray Brennan, another Marine as well, were trying to push their troops' front to the North Korean border. Basically, they were crawling from one tunnel to the next and trying to advance ahead of the rest of their troops and then lead the rest of them to the enemy lines. And from this point, I'll let Richard tell the rest of the story. We were passing so they were sitting in a foxhole after they got out of the tunnels. We were passing a chocolate bar back and forth. Ray took the last bite, and a grenade lobbed by an undetected North Korean landed squarely in the center of the bunker. Ray was the first one to spot it. Almost nonchalantly, he flipped the candy wrapper aside and fell on this grenade. It detonated instantly. His stomach smothered the explosion. I was completely unharmed, untouched. He looked up at me, winked, and rolled over dead. Literally in a wink, his best friend died for him so that he could live. He actually died for him so that he could live. And the response that Richard Manning had, he responded with so much thankfulness, so much gratefulness, that it compelled him to action. And what was this action? It compelled him to change his name in honor of Ray. And that's why we now know this author as Brennan Manning instead of Richard Manning. And in a very similar way, that's how God wants us to respond as well. He wants us to look at this free gift of life, this free gift of eternal life that He's given us, the fact that Jesus laid on the grenade for us. He took punishment for us, died for us. And we look at that, and it compels us to be obedient. That we would turn away from throwing obedience at anything else besides God. We turn away from that, and we throw our obedience at God. That can only be described as a beautiful and willing and joyous slavery. So, I leave you with this last question. To whom do you cast your obedience? To whom do you cast your obedience? Do you cast your obedience to your own sin? The sin that you know, have experienced, have learned will lead to shame and eventually will lead to spiritual death? Or do you cast your obedience to the good and perfect God who offers a free gift of eternal joy with Him?